Hello and welcome to the office. I'm not using the cameras pointing out from the computer. I'm using these cameras out here. Let me explain. So I've been doing this YouTube thing. Well, I've been doing the video thing since the pandemic started because I had to start doing my classes for school. But I started the YouTube thing about a year and a half ago now. I've been shooting a lot of video. And what you record video onto are SD cards. Here are some. I have a bunch. I have more, but some of them are in the cameras that I'm using here. But I have a bunch. And then over the years, I've acquired more and that I use in the A7C and the ZV-E10 and the ZV-1 when I use it, which not today. But the bigger ones, the SDXC. That's it, SDXC. Now, I never really thought much about them. I mean, if you look at them, like this one says it's 150 megabits per second, and this one says it's 250 megabits per second, and the ones in the cameras, they're basically they're all different speeds. And I really never thought much about it. And back in 2020, when I started, I bought this little SD card reader, a USB 3.0. Plug and play, supports like every kind of card known to man according to this. Super speed, 5 gigabits per second. High speed, 480 megabits per second. Full speed, 12 megabits per second. Supports most standard memory cards. Well, again, I bought this in 2020 in the summer. I was getting going, and back then I was just shooting school videos. Never really thought much about it. After I'd been doing my YouTube channel for about a year, I went to 4K video. Well, now all of a sudden, the file sizes coming out of the cameras that are being recorded on these SD cards are substantially larger. They're measured in multi-gigabytes. So now, all of a sudden, dragging a file off of the little SD card in the little thing onto my hard drive. By the way, onto my NVMe Gen 4, very fast hard drives. I'd start copying things, and they'd always copy at the same speed. But then Paul of Paul's Hardware did a video recently where he got Lexar to send him free, because he's Paul of Paul's Hardware, a super fast SD card, a Lexar Professional 2600X, which says 300 megabytes per second. Not bits, bytes. Megabytes per second. But you needed the Lexar SD card reader, multi-card 3-in-1, USB 3.1 reader. Now remember, I have a 3.0 reader, but I have a feeling the reader is a little fancier. Now, I did not get these sent to me for free by Lexar because I went on Amazon and bought them. And in fact, here are I have the Amazon listings for these things up. The little reader was $30, whereas I believe this one was $20. So it was only $10 more. No, it is 50%, but $30. But it's allegedly capable of much higher speeds, such as the kind of speeds that this card will. Now, the card, on the other hand, was $250. Now, this is for the 2000X, which again rated at 300 megabits per second. Now, I had bought previously a 256, in fact, on August 16th, 2021, so last summer, I had bought a 256 gig because I was when I went to 4K. I started to go 4K. I started buying bigger cards, so I got 256, and it was a Lexar, and it was 250 megabytes per second, and it was only $90. So to go from 250 to 300, it's going from 90 to 250. Now, by the way, ordinarily that means I never would have bought this $250 one, except I want to see if it's really faster. And if it is, this will be the one I use all the time. well, at least in the A7C. Today's video is I am going to, well, I guess I can go ahead and unbox the little, not a lot to it. Here's the little Lexar card reader. Comes, you know, a little plastic tray, and it's got a USB-C port here on the back for connecting to the computer, and then it's got the two the giant kind on this side. I don't even know. I guess those are the old school, and then the SDXC, and then the mini. And it comes with the cable you need, the USB-C cable you need to attach it to the computer. So what I am going to do is, well, first I'm going to use this, and I'm going to create baselines for all of these cards. And then I will switch to this new reader and rerun the tests and see how much faster this new little card reader is than this old school. For $10 more, how much more speed do I get? Is the main question I'm answering, and I'm hoping it's substantial because, like I said, I spend a lot of time waiting. Basically, you start the copy, and then you go in the other room because it's going to be a while. It's the same thing like when you go to render a video to upload it to YouTube. It's going to take a while. By the way, God bless DaVinci Resolve, which now lets you render the video and upload it to YouTube all in one fell swoop, so you can start that and then leave the room and it will be done, and you'll be able to check that it's done from the other room when you look on YouTube and see if your video's there. Now the second question I'm going to answer, which is maybe one that you all care about more than I do, but 250 megabits per second, 250 megabytes per second versus 300 megabytes per second. $90, $250. What's the actual speed difference between these two? Is it worth? Clearly, it's not going. What is 90? So that's one and a half times as much money. So I don't think it's going to be 1.5 times faster. 250, 300. They sound like they're pretty much the same. So I may be able to tell you, no, just spend the $90. Don't waste your money on the 250. Or we're going to find out. That's what empirical science is all about. And I do have a PhD, so I am trained in science, but this isn't really science. I'm going to copy a bunch of things and see how long it takes and then make some comparisons. There aren't going to be any statistics. Well, maybe. I don't know. I may come up with statistics. Hey, how you doing? I never talk to that camera. I always talk to the A7C. Anyway, so that's what the video is going to be about. So for first set of tests, I'm going to plug back in the SmartQ C368 SD card reader. Actually, oh, I'm sorry, it was $17. So this one is $30. So that's a different. Okay, it's close to twice the price. But maybe it's a lot faster. So first I'm going to plug this one in to the computer, and I'm going to copy a bunch of files off of all these different SD cards, including the ones that are currently in these cameras that I'm using. Then I'm going to switch to the Lexar Professional multi-card 3-in-1. We're going to repeat all those tests and see what the differences are. Then I'll come back out here when I'm done and show you the results of both sets of tests. Okay, so now what we're going to do is fill in this chart. So we will start with the 64 gigabyte Sandisk. As you can see on the screen there below the spreadsheet, which we're going to fill in, that's the hard drive or the NVMe drive that I'm going to copy to. So we know it's not the thing that's going to slow things down. So Sandisk, the test is now Sandisk 64 gig, supposed to be able to do 170 gigabytes per second, megabytes per second. And this is with, I'm going to click start. There we go. So as you can see here, we're going about 92 megabytes per second. Remember, it's supposed to do 150. So we're thinking it's the reader. So 92, 92, 92, minute 49 seconds. So 92, minute 49. This again, the very consistently 90. That was a lot of work for very little result. Well, you can see the results here behind me. Basically, with the cheap card reader, the $17 SD card reader, the fastest speed you're going to get is around 92 megabytes per second. That's I guess that's just the limit of USB 3 or what, I don't know. But performance was bad across the board. Well, you can see the numbers. But again, you look at the Lexar 300 megabit per second, which is $250, and it copied the file in 52 seconds. But if you look at the 250 megabytes per second Lexar 256 gig card, which cost $90, it was just 7 seconds slower. So my advice to you, if you've stayed this long in the video, and I don't know why you would have, God, this was boring. I'm going to edit out almost all of this. So y'all will have to put up with most of what I put up with today. But here's the bottom line. Buy this reader. Without this reader, if you get a regular old reader, you're never going to get over 90 megabytes per second because they just can't. This reader will go well above. I mean, we got to one. Now, we didn't get to 250 or 300, but we got to 195, 189. And again, that was the other interesting thing was, and I'll leave some of that in when I edit out all the nonsense. I'll leave in some of, but the speeds were, sometimes they were very erratic, and then sometimes they were just nyeh. I don't know if that's the card itself. I don't know if it's the, by the way, we know it's not the receiving disk, since again I ran Crystal Diskmark, and my slowest NVMe, my Gen 3, the Gen 4 was 5,000 megabytes per second. The Gen 3 was like 3,000. That's my story. So while I was editing, I realized that there was a much better way to present my results. You look at this table and you see everything you need to see. So using the Lexar reader we established is much better because it actually gets near speeds. But I figured out to calculate the cost per megabyte per second. And if you look at the cost per megabyte per second of speed, clearly the winners on the 64 gig table are the Sandisk, which is 170 megabits per second, because it's $17, and so that ends up being 10 cents per megabyte per second. It actually achieves 165, so it's 97% of rated. So that is an awesome card in the 64. The Sony is more expensive, so it's 12 cents, and it only does 80% of rated. So I would say the Sandisk is probably the better one. Although, again, if you look, it's a minute 14 for 10 gigabytes versus 49 seconds. Depends on how much is speed worth to you. And then, of course, on the 256, the 300 megabyte per second Lexar is outrageous. It's $1.28. You're paying $1.28 per megabyte per second. It's only getting 65% of the rated speed of the 300 megabytes per second. So yes, while it's way faster, it's 52 seconds versus a minute 11 for the Sandisk. The Sandisk is getting almost all of its speed, and it's only $42, so it's 29 cents. Now the 250 megabit per second, which is the conclusion I came to in the original video when I was filming it, I said the Lexar 250 megabits per second was a good buy. It's a decent buy, but look at that Sandisk. Yes, it is slightly slower. You get 145 megabytes per second instead of 189, but you're only paying for 150, and you're getting almost all of them. It's 29 cents per megabyte per second, whereas the Lexar is 39 cents. So that's the big result table. My recommendations clearly are the 2 Sandisk drives. So now we'll go back to that video that I shot several days ago and finish it up. And I'm not going to tell you what's coming next week because I'm in a little bit of flux here. I'm waiting for the Carvana thing to happen with Stormtrooper. Go out, have a good time, and get a faster reader, but don't waste your money on faster cards, especially those high... The difference between 300 and 250 and 300, well, again, practically there was almost no difference, but the difference in price was $90 versus $250. So I would tell you to get the $90 one every damn time. Or get the 64, the Sony. The Sony actually had the Sony 64 gig actually had the fastest speed in that reader. We got 217 out of a possible 270, whereas these other guys never broke 200. Now, again, this isn't scientific because I didn't do it multiple times, and and different computers. You have to. I'm just telling you what I see, and what I see tells me I'm glad I bought this, and I'm glad I bought 256 gigabyte Lexar. That's the 250 megabytes per second. That was a good buy. The 300, not a good buy, but, what can you do? I mean, I'll still use it, but I don't ever have to, basically, I don't ever have to buy another SD card because, I mean, they're not going to get much faster than this for any time in the near future. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night.